Do you kind of do you think your audience is actually Muslims, or you just kind of anyone come and play? You mentioned non-Muslims, or people give dawah to them in the comments and that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I would say about 80% of my audience is always Muslim.
Mm.
80%. The goal is to grow that to where we have as equal amount of non-Muslims coming, if not more. That's the goal.
MashaAllah.
That's the goal. Especially for the streams, at least, the audience for the streams. But on the server, it's almost everybody's Muslim. We have a Quran lounge where Quran is constantly playing and stuff like that. So it's a very much an Islamic server, but it's just for techies and gamers.
Assalamu alaikum, legends. We've got a really interesting podcast for you today. A lot of people in lockdown have been turning to so many different types of activities and stuff to stop themselves going crazy or killing each other and getting on each other's nerves. And I came across, there's actually something called the Muslim Gamers League. Did you know that? And guess who's behind it? None other than the good brother, mashallah, from across the pond, Yusha Evans. Right, remember him? He's been all over the world. He's probably done a talk, a motivational speech at your local mosque or your Islamic society, whatever. And he's created this community of online gamers. And it's something that might be a bit polarizing, but let's hear what he has to say about this very, very interesting topic. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder, please do try and subscribe. We looked at we're getting more and more of the subscribers. I'm assuming that's a good thing, inshallah. But a lot of people are watching and haven't subscribed. So if you do enjoy this content, just give it a like and a thumbs up. And also press the subscribe button and I'm told the bell notification button so that anytime we post something on the channel, you'll get, front row access to that. Maybe first front of the queue for getting notifications from that. And also finally, please do try and donate to support Soundcloud and especially the Unscripted podcast. We're trying to look for 250 people from this video. Let's try that, giving £5 a month. How about that? Sound realistic? It's only 16 something pence a day, and it's very easy. I believe in you. You can do it. So just before we crack on, just a reminder: number 1, like and subscribe. Number 2, like and comment below. Let us know what you think in the comments and get involved in the discussions. And number 3, donate if you can, £5 a month. The link is in the description. Link's on the screen right now. And number 4, stay awesome. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Good to see you again after so long. My first question is, where have you been?
Alhamdulillah, it's good. I've been right here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I haven't gone anywhere since March 1st.
SubhanAllah, yeah.
I
Probably like everyone.
From traveling the world for well over a decade, like literally the past, I would say 2.5 years before lockdown, I was gone more than I was home. And then it went from that to nothing. I've been home for nearly a year. So it's a bit of a change.
Is it true that you moved to UK at some point?
No.
I thought I heard somewhere along the grapevine that you either you stayed for a while or
no, I was there for a period of time, maybe but I wasn't living there. I was back and forth with my missus when my daughter was born in England. But other than that, no.
So your daughter was born in England?
Yes, mashallah.
MashaAllah.
To have the dual.
Yeah. MashaAllah.
Don't know which one's going to be worth more. The rate we're
especially
going
now with the Brexit and
I know.
And both
of our countries are killing their credibility worldwide.
Trying to find a third one. Maybe Pakistan will take you in.
Yeah, possibly. These days.
But I mean, the thing I was really interested, I came across your Muslim Gamer League. I mean, in lockdown in particular, a lot of people were turning to different things to kind of stop themselves from losing their minds or killing each other. And one of the things was, getting involved in or dusting off the old computer games consoles and stuff. Yep. I mean, I've got this thing with my kids of, very strict tarbiyah, that it has to be, you can't just jump into these latest games. They have to go through the process, start them off with Pac-Man, get them to know and appreciate the legacy and the history. At the moment, they're kind of playing, N64 games now. So I'm getting them giving them the proper tarbiyah, not just jumping, throwing them into the deep end. Although we do have a few.
The same. My kids all started with very small, minor games but when my eldest, way back used to play all the Pac-Man and all that stuff, but then he got into like Angry Birds. That was, that was like his game for a while. It was just like zoomed into that and Minecraft, and all my kids came along that same way. They all went through this Angry Bird and then Minecraft phase. And
I have a rule though, like when I speak to my kids or just generally people giving advice and stuff, I always, and this is quite unpopular, I always say, don't play free games.
Yeah.
Because those free games are laced with kind of dopamine hijacking techniques and all this kind of persuasion architecture and stuff that just kind of appeals and exploits the young person's brain just to get them hooked. And
because a lot of the free games come with tons of ads and things of that nature, and the only way they get paid is if you play the game and stay through the ads. There has to be a reason why. And
the old in-app purchases, they get rich on that as well. I think the Fortnite was like $1 million a day it used to make.
It makes a ridiculous amount of money.
So it's unpopular with the kids because they want to play them, and it's unpopular with the parents because I tell them to buy full price, expensive games that are made for the actual game, not just to take.
Those games are not cheap anymore these days.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
if you want to get the deluxe package, some games like $150. It's just crazy. It's a lot of money.
I heard though they're cheaper than they used to be if you account for inflation.
If you count for inflation, they are definitely cheaper than they used to be. I know that, I believe it was Atari games were like $40, $50 a piece way back when. And that was a lot of money. It was a lot of money back in the 80s.
Yeah.
That was the first system I ever played on. It was an Atari. And then I went on to Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the first one I had was the NES. Nintendo.
Yeah, I had the Super Nintendo with Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. That was it. That's all you had because that's what came in the original box.
Duck Hunt was so funny because wherever you shoot on the screen, the duck would die. Buy one.
Yeah, you don't have to. There was no real. It wasn't like there was aiming anywhere.
So tell me about Muslim Gamer League. What is it and how did it come about? What is it?
Well, I grew up as a gamer as a young man, so it was just kind of something we did, and I fell out of gaming. I played gaming all the way up through my teens and my 20s. I used to have a friend that we used to teach martial arts together that when Black Ops Zombies first came out back in the day, we used to, after our martial arts school, we'd go home in the evening, have dinner and play zombies. So but when I got really busy on the road, especially let's say the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I've not really had any time, to pick up gaming. I would play it. If I was home for a couple of weeks, I'd play with my kids who play video games, or a couple of brothers that I know from online that we'd play together. But it was hit or miss. I would just be so busy. My whole life was from one place, home for a few days to spend time with the family, unpack and repack, and then hit the road. But after being home all the time, in the beginning, there was a lot of stuff that I did that I was like, wow, I've never had the time to catch up on all these things. And after a while, you're thinking lockdown's only going to be like a month, 2 months, and then because 3 months, 4 months,
and then you went and bought a chair.
Everything in your house, I try to read as much as I can as well, but you're like, you can only stare at a book for so long. So you're like, I need something else to do with my time. And here in Minnesota, I know that winter was coming. This was like spring, late summer of the lockdown. I was like, winter's coming in Minnesota and it's going to be below zero. There's going to be snow everywhere. You're pretty much locked inside for like 6 months, unless you're someone like me who likes to go out in the woods in the snow, but you can't do that on days when it's below zero. So I said, I'm going to start. I picked up my console again, got back on my PS4. I said, let's, start doing some gaming. And I noticed I was gaming with brothers. And then I was watching my kids who were not only gaming, but I realized that there was this whole world of watching other people game. I knew of the concept of streaming, but I'd never had enough time to pay that much attention to it as busy as my travels made me. But I sat down and I started looking at why are my kids, instead of playing a video game, they're sitting there watching other people play video games. And who are these people? So I started looking into it. And number one, I realized there was not really a ton of family friendly, halal content out there that I would feel good like my kids can watch this and me not have to sit here and watch everything that they're doing. And I said, so I went and I started looking into streaming. First of all, I realized that a report came out in April that said the streaming segment of the entertainment industry was becoming the largest section of the entertainment industry on planet Earth. And I was like, wow. So I learned about Twitch. I started going on to Twitch and looking at who's there, who's streaming, what Islamic content is on there. When I go to the Islamic content, it's the same thing you always see. Brothers sitting there giving, doing something like that. And I'm like, okay, I would watch something like that, but with my kids. You know what I mean? My kids are going to sit down and watch that. If I tell them to, yes, but they're not going to go seek it out themselves.
Only if they're delivering it whilst they're smashing each other's face in Street Fighter or something.
So I said, I saw a light bulb went off and I said, you know what? There's a niche here. There's a niche for Muslims who like to game, because I was in a lot of lobbies with brothers who I'd played with all over the world. And it's like, we're cool when we're hanging out with each other and we're talking, but then you get off with the brothers, you got to jump onto another party with a bunch of randomers who are screaming, cussing, calling you the worst, talking about your mother. It's like, this is not a safe space. I don't want my kids in this space. So why don't we create something that allows our youth or adults, that like to play video games that are permissible. I don't even want to get into that, but that aren't blatantly, this is wrong. And have an environment where we can do so together, and also remind each other about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do little reminders, little talks. Just like when brothers go play basketball, or in the UK, when you guys go and play football on the pitch, there'll be, religious brothers will get together. Let's do a little reminder beforehand, and we keep Islamic etiquette throughout the game and stuff like that. We're doing that exact same thing that I've done so many times with brothers in the sports world, now in the digital world, the gaming world. So that was the goal, create this environment that I would feel comfortable with my kids coming into, that's moderated when it's under our umbrella, and that we're trying to make sure not only are we helping our youth spend time with each other and socialize, but we're pushing them towards the deen at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I noticed with my kids as well that just playing together with them, or just playing I found out that my kids are like really legends, mashallah, because they like to watch me play sometimes as well. Before when you were a kid, you had a little cousin or a sibling or something, you'd be like, they'd be like, oh, I want to turn as well. You'd be like, no, we're playing as a team. It's okay. You're watching. You tell me what to do. But my kids actually enjoy just, watching me when I'm playing with them and stuff, and obviously let them have a bit of a turn now and then as well. But can you explain so somebody who doesn't play games, hasn't played, they might think it's absolutely crazy that somebody will actually sit and watch someone else play something. Have you thought about what that allure is? Maybe it's hard to describe if somebody's not kind of into that kind of stuff, but what do you say to those people who say, why would you watch someone else play a game?
Yeah, if you're not into that, I can absolutely 100% understand that. But it's kind of like how we view our own entertainment. Like, let's say you're a car guy. These are things I can relate to because I'm a car guy. So I follow, accounts on social media that all they talk about is cars. All they do is build cars. All they do is show pictures of their new turbo manifolds. And, like, if you're not a car guy, you would find that the most, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? You're watching a guy on Instagram, a 5-minute Instagram TV video of a guy taking apart a turbo manifold. You know what I mean? It's like, it looks very silly.
Yeah.
So
they might say it sucks.
Drift towards those things that you yourself have interest and passion about. So there is a huge chunk of our community, and to deny that is being you have your head in the sand. There is a large portion of the Western and we have people gaming with us from everywhere. There's one brother who joins regularly from, I think he's from Islamabad. May Allah bless the brother. He's always tuning in the stream, always playing with us. So there is this section of our community, and if we're not offering an outlet for them, then we are, doing a disservice in thinking that, okay, if we say don't do it, that our kids are en masse going to say, okay, let's drop the video games, let's sell the consoles, let's get off of YouTube. That's not happening. So, and we know it's not, I know it's not outright impermissible to play a digital video game. There are things that make it very much impermissible, but as long as we can help our youth with that, and understand those things, like, okay, we don't play any games that you can't turn the music off in. You know what I mean? If there's no way to mute music, then we just don't play it. And of course, music pops up every once in a while on stream that, in a game that there's nothing we can do about. that's called reality, teaching our children how to functional in a real world, by also trying to avoid things that are outright disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we're not teaching our children how to navigate this digital world that they are getting lost in, and now that the world is changing or has changed pretty much forever for any of our lives, where the world is becoming more online, then we're not offering a service, if that makes sense. And also I saw there was an opportunity for the da'wah. That there was no da'wah being done on this level. There was da'wah being done on Twitch. There was da'wah being done on YouTube. But gamers and people who are looking for video game content are not coming to your channel. You know what I mean? They're just not going to do it. They're going to see you and swipe right past. But by doing this, we bring that community in. And then what do they do when they're watching our stream? On the right is nothing but suggestion of Islamic videos, other Islamic content and videos and things of that nature. So we're bringing them into this space in a very, what is the word I'm looking for? Non-aggressive manner, in a very passive manner, doing that passive da'wah to allow them to come in and see a group of Muslims. Can you imagine somebody who might have the weirdest opinion about Muslims being backward cave dwellers, and then all of a sudden they come on a YouTube stream and there's like 15, Muslim brothers playing Warzone, going to absolute
shouting Allahu Akbar
Warzone, and they're like, wait, what? Huh? What just happened here?
Did somebody say Allahu Akbar?
Yeah, did that guy just say Allahu Akbar? But it's something that helps show that side of Islam, that yes, we live in this real world with everybody else. We just we try to put limits on the things that we do, even those things which are permissible and pastimes. We try to keep them in limits.
All right, brothers and sisters, sorry to interrupt, but look, we really need to hit this subscribe button. Get ready before this guy comes. Yeah, I mean, the reality is people are always going to be receiving some kind of da'wah on these channels on YouTube, Twitch, and whatever else they're watching. Either it's people going to be subtly calling them towards secularism or atheism or liberalism or any other kind of ism and schism, or you can, be there. You can have a presence on those platforms. When
and the chat gets going, you'll have someone come into the stream, and I've seen it happen a number of times, and say, "Hey, are you guys a Muslim?" And yeah, I'm a Muslim, and well, I'm not a Muslim, but it's nice to see. And then you'll just see a conversation kick off between them and a few of the brothers and sisters in the chat, where they're giving them direct da'wah, you know what I mean? But in a way that, I'm trying to teach our viewership in a way that does not seem overly aggressive or too pushy. And, so creating that space, I've seen it. I've been doing it now for going on about 3-4 months with some serious effort. And alhamdulillah, the things that have transpired in the stream just show me this is exactly why I created this space.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm completely new to this. I don't really know much about streaming, gaming streaming and stuff. So I don't know exactly, what does Muslim Gamer League do? Is it like, so you have YouTube, you have Twitch, which I think I've never seen it properly, but it's like a platform where people stream them playing and they have some kind of conversations with people watching. And what does MGL do then?
We also, it started off as a Discord server. That is our home for everything. So we have a Discord server where, people who have gaming tech, because we also talk tech. I'm a tech person. I've been a techie for my entire life. So we talk about tech. We talk about hardware, software for streaming and cameras.
So a Discord server is just basically like a forum. People speak to each other.
It's a forum people can go on to. There's rooms that you can join. There's a lounge to talk in. There's a sisters only section that you have to identify yourself in the server as a sister to be able to get access to that.
Wow.
And it's moderated by a sister. There's lounges where people can hang out in, hey, does anybody want to play Warzone? And they ping everybody in that room, and then they get a notification and say, hey, yeah, I'm ready. I want to jump on some Warzone. So it's heavily moderated. We have and the thing is, it's created by youth. Our main server moderator is 15 years old, mashallah. And our main designer for the server and the one who runs all the bots is only 17. He's a junior in college, alhamdulillah. So it's ran by the youth. So they can come onto that. We have going on 1,500 members now in 3 months. And from there, it branched off into getting content creators. We have 4 official content creators who are let's say, approved MGL content creators. They can use our name, they can use the logos, they can use everything. Like Brother Ben Iqra. I don't know, you might know, have heard of Brother Ben before. He does a lot of Dawah. I think he's more up north in the UK with the SC Dawah guys and all of those guys. He's one of our official content creators. He does the same thing that I do, streams and gives Dawah. Our moderator is one of them. We have 4 different ones that do what we do, and we've approved them. We've gone through a whole, we take it very seriously. We go through and comb all of your stuff to make sure it falls in line with the rules and regulations of Muslim Gamers League. The goal is to have 50, 100, streamers out there that are part of the MGL team that are streaming and giving Dawah. So that way you're going to run across one of us, you know what I mean? So that if you, no matter what kind of games you like to play or what, you're going to come across one of our videos at some point. That's the whole goal, inshallah.
So the brothers are gamers first and du'at second? Or you're not like just kind of roping in?
There's a couple that are like myself. I've always been known as the du'at first and then the gamer second. People are coming to learn that. Ben Iqra is kind of the same way. There's a few brothers who are gamers, but all want to use their gaming platform to get into Dawah, if that makes sense. So it's a mixed bag in that sense.
Okay. I've got a little test for you here.
Sure.
Just to test your gaming credentials. I'm going to play some sound effects and you're going to tell me which games are these from.
This is going to fail.
I'll start very easy for you.
No, that's Street Fighter.
Yep, very good. That was nice and easy starting off. Oops.
Sounds like Zelda.
Yes, very good.
That is?
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
What about this?
Perfect.
Oh, I know what game that's from, and I cannot remember. Is that Duck Hunt?
Nope.
No, I don't know. Then that I know that sound.
It was Street Fighter again.
That was Street Fighter again.
Yeah, I tricked you. Let's see another one. Sorry, I was looking at for these, getting them ready beforehand. I'm just.
This is me showing my age as well.
Let's see.
As if all the gray in the beard isn't doing that for me. I have to have my coffee.
Oops. What's this? Bit of technical difficulties happening here.
That's welcome to the live stream game. This is what always happens. It's never smooth. It gets smoother as you go on. But, what was that again?
That doesn't sound like what I thought it was. That's getting a bit old now. Let me look for a better one.
Okay.
What? That does not sound.
That
does not sound like a game.
That does not sound like a video game.
Someone's trying to pull a fast one here. All right. Let's.
Boing. Game over.
You know who that is. You gotta know who that is.
I have no idea.
Here we go.
You don't know? Yes, it's Mario.
Yeah.
What's Mario's surname? Don't know.
I have no idea. Did he even have one? It's just Mario and Luigi.
All right, let's do one more. This is because I'm always giving Street Fighter references, and one brother, I think his name was Mo Sal, on Facebook, he said, you need to do this game. What was it called? SubhanAllah. I forgot.
But games when I was young were just a lot more wholesome.
Yeah.
and now it's just like it's like a real world.
Yeah. This is all from back in the day. There you go. Ready?
I don't remember that game. I know I can think of it in my head. I remember hearing that, but I don't know a game.
Ultra Combo!
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, that was Killer Instinct.
Oh, I never played that game.
Yeah, it wasn't that popular, but it was. It had a distinct kind
I
of.
never played that game.
soundboard
Yeah,
to it.
when I used to go to the arcade, that was the thing to do.
Yeah.
You had to go to the arcade and play. A lot of these games were arcade games only. Street Fighter was one of them for a while. I used to go and play Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was like my game when I was in high school. We used to go to the arcade.
I was actually looking for Mortal Kombat ones. I couldn't find a proper
and play
one.
Mortal Kombat. That was my game. The original Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, but they've gone disgusting now, man. Have you seen the more recent, the newer versions?
Yeah.
They're like really gory.
They're too gruesome and gory.
Yeah,
Just,
I haven't played it. I just
too
saw
much.
like a clip of it on YouTube, and it's so realistic, like people's guts coming out and flying
I
everywhere.
know it's too much.
It's
That's why
disgusting,
I don't play or
Yeah.
let my kids play any of the newer ones. Games are just so much more engrossing and realistic these days. Like
Yeah.
I play Warzone, with the brothers, and it's like you feel like you have entered it. Especially if you have on some good
I
headphones
feel like you just killed someone.
that have like spatial sound, you feel like you're in a war zone.
Wow.
There's like bombs going off over here. There's people shooting over here. There's a helicopter flying over here. There's cruise missiles dropping out of the sky. You're like, wow, this is, war is not nice. But the thing about it, you can play here. There's no real world repercussions. Unless you get addicted. And that's one thing that we do try to talk about as well in MGL is the addictiveness of games and how to not let them become that level of addiction.
I did want to
Because
talk about
addiction.
addiction. But before that, you mentioned, all this war zone and that kind of stuff. Aren't you afraid that you're gonna get some FBI or some kind of informants or whatever try to build some kind of bogus story around this? Because a lot of people have been kind of entrapped and kind of put away for much less. I think, especially in the USA, we hear kind of really crazy stories.
Well, for two reasons. Number one, if they do. I've been at this for a long time, and that I've given over the years plenty of reason. If they really wanted to jam me up, which I have been jammed up. I'm banned from Canada and Australia.
Really?
By the way, yeah.
Oh, those are rubbish countries anyway.
Thanks to Facebook. But anyway,
sorry, any
that's why I'm
Canadians
not on
or
Facebook
Australians
anymore. It's just
watching.
a bunch of nonsense. But number one, we do this publicly. It's not like we're doing this in the dark, like we're training for some mission to Afghanistan. No, we do this.
It must be
publicly.
so
We stream
confused,
this
like-
on the internet. You know what I mean? Like we're not trying to hide anything here. If clearly this was something to be hidden, we would probably not be streaming it.
Unless you're so good that you can do it hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, that's where they'll go back to. But it's becoming more of a known thing now that this happens. You know what I mean? Even like one of the very famous game clubs, because there's clubs now. There's game clubs, and these game clubs are famous. Like one of the most famous ones on Twitch is called FaZe Clan. The founder is a Muslim. He's a professed Muslim. He's quote unquote practicing, as they say. And a lot of people in that group are, come from Muslim families, etc. But they just don't show any of their Islam openly, you know what I mean, at all, period. Because, and I understand why. I do understand why. Because if you grew up in a Muslim family, especially an Arab or a Desi family, you know how judgmental we are. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm a convert. I had to find out the hard way, by getting battered. But if you grew up in especially Arab and Desi families, you know how judgmental the Muslim community can be. So having that audience versus having the non-Muslim audience, you can see why sometimes people choose to focus more towards the non-Muslim audience, especially in the entertainment streaming industry, over the Muslim audience. It's a sad fact, but that's just kind of how we deal with each other. That's an unfortunate fact.
Do you kind of do you think your audience is actually Muslims, or are you just kind of anyone come and play? You mentioned non-Muslims, or people give dawah to them in the comments and that kind of stuff.
I would say about 80% of my audience is always Muslim. 80%. The goal is to grow that to where we have as equal amount of non-Muslims coming, if not more. That's the goal.
MashaAllah.
That's the goal. especially for the streams, at least, the audience for the streams. But on the server, it's almost everybody's Muslim. We have a Quran lounge where Quran is constantly playing and stuff like that. So it's a very much an Islamic server, but it's just for techies and gamers.
MashaAllah. So, I mean, you mentioned addiction. That's one of the things that a lot of people kind of talk about now, especially when it comes to games and especially young people. Like I mentioned the thing about my rule about no free games, partly because they are laced with every, technique you can think of oftentimes to just glue some kid's attention to it. And how do you deal with that? How do you must get maybe criticism from maybe Muslims, some Muslims.
Maybe just a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
It is a little bit.
Is it about that, or is it about, games are haram?
Most of it's about, the haram nature of it, because it's considered wasting time. And, my response, number one, about addiction, and especially when I try to, show my kids that, and parents of children who do games. And this brought me to, I remember I was talking with Brother Sabur Ahmed, and he was telling me when we were talking about MGL, because he reached out to me to say, asking me what was it all about. And I explained it to him. He said, he's had aunties call him because they try to do kind of a similar thing with youth get together before all this lockdown. And he would have aunties say, my son, I can't get him off the video games. He's not doing anything else, not going out and playing in the streets. And he would respond. He said, I would respond and say, all your kids need exercise, 100%. But would you rather your children be, especially in today's world, the world is very strange, your children in your home doing something with maybe some Muslim friends online that is in an environment where you can see them, you have your eyes on them, you know what they're doing, or out in the streets with who knows who doing who knows what. That's what happens in these days. So, for me, that was where I looked at it, is when it comes to addiction, there are some symptoms you should look for as parents, when taking them away from these, when you see them drawn to it and there's an emotional attachment taken away, if they can't play, for a day or whatever, because you have something else you have to do, or 2 days, 3 days, you see it becomes like a withdrawal. This is too far. We shouldn't let our children have this type of attachment to it, nor should we as adults. If you feel like you can't get up and walk away and go do something else, like if I was going on a 2-week vacation and was not able to play video games, it would not bother me in the slightest bit. But if it becomes an addiction, this is something that needs to be curbed. But that doesn't mean that because it can become addicting, that it is in and of itself impermissible. Because football can become addicting. I know some brothers that are addicted to football straight away. It can become addicting between playing and watching and all of these things and stats and knowing everything. There's no sheikh in his right mind is going to say football's haram, because nobody, the whole Muslim world would throw him out, so, but it's within reason. If it's something that becomes an addiction, you can turn anything that is halal into something that is haram for you if it becomes an addiction or a distraction that takes you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we try to remind people of that.
The tough thing about addiction is there's no one kind of definition.
No, there's nothing you can say. If he does this or she does this, they're addicted. That's it.
There's one neuroscientist I heard, he gave a very good operational definition of addiction. He said it's a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. So, slowly.
It has to be that kind of one thing, this one thing, or these couple of things, the only thing that can bring me happiness. And those things are not, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, salah, or nothing of that nature, then you're on the road to addiction. If you're not
and this whole thing about, one of the problems of our day and young people and their attachment to devices is most parents don't know how to deal with and set up those devices for security and safety and privacy and all that kind of stuff. We had an article from our head of technology in Assam 21C. He wrote about technically there's pornography within WhatsApp and Telegram and even iMessenger that's actually built into the app in the GIF or GIF interface. Many people don't know about this. With iMessage, with Messenger app on the iPhone, you can turn it off, but with WhatsApp and other things, you can't turn it off. We were encouraging people to write emails to the kind of CEOs of those companies to give an option, for example, to. But a lot of parents are just handing their kids these devices, laptops, tablets, games consoles, and they don't know how to set it up or help them stay safe. And as a result, your kid could be chatting to some weirdo online. Like in 2014 or 15 in the UK, there was a big story of a young boy called Breck Bednar, and I think Ustad Abu Hanifa Suhail, author in Islam Truancy, he wrote something about this. He was befriended by some guy slightly older than him online whilst playing Call of Duty. And, you know, they developed a relationship, and, you know, he groomed him, basically, turned him against his mother, and made this elaborate kind of secret plot to meet. And he kind of basically abused him and killed him. And that kind of scared a lot of people, and that we just buy these things for our kids and we don't know how to set them up or help them set them up. So, you know who you're playing with, you know who you're dealing with, and because you wouldn't just get any random person and invite them into your living room and have them play with your kids, right?
Yeah,
it's clear. And I suppose that is an argument for something like Muslim Gamer League, where you have a safe space, you know, there's a realistic, reliable alternative to just being thrown out there into the wide world, where you can, you know, come into contact with anyone.
Yeah, and we would like to have, you know, and that's something I actually thought about a few weeks ago, is, you know, have a space, like we have a website now as well, muslimgamerleague.com, having, you know, because most of us don't know how to, some of us adults that have these technology devices don't know how far our privacy is breached in them. That kind of needs, you know, it's almost, you have to really look into these things, especially with every time the app updates. If you don't check the patch notes and you don't check, you know, the authorizations, every time you download an app, if you don't look at what authorization you're giving it over your devices. So trying to make a resource for parents, either on the website as well as on the Discord server, because that's what Discord is about, is to offer things like this for companies and et cetera. Some companies' entire tech support is a Discord server. So, you know, offering that, like, okay, advice for parents, when you give a kid your iPhone, what are the things that you need to do to make sure that your kids stay safe on this device? You know, turning on download permissions and things of that nature, to where they can only download things that you have a passcode to download on their phone, etc. The same with the online world, and as far as gaming, PlayStation Network, Discord, WhatsApp, because there's so much of it. There's so many places that, you know, people can communicate with each other these days. It's mind-boggling. But trying to continually have a resource for that for parents, you know, how to keep themselves and their kids safe.
So important.
In a connected world.
Very useful resource. I'm going to check it out, inshallah. And we'll put the links and stuff.
Because there's so much to it. There is literally 1,000 places that your kids can go online and adults can go online and be lost in a world talking to anyone. It's just a fact.
SubhanAllah.
And it's crazy, but that's reality.
Yeah. I mean, on the point of, you know, so wanted to ask you what kind of criticism and maybe refutations that you get as well on you know, setting up this Muslim Gamer League. One is, you know, people saying, "Oh, waste of time."
The gaming is haram, is a waste of time. You know, other ones are the particular games that we personally play, like Among Us. Everybody's like, you know, how can you play Among Us when the premise of the game is about lying? And I'm like, every time I think about that, like, there's no, when you log on to Among Us, there is no rule that says, disclaimer, in order to play this game, you must lie. No, that's kind of like,
I mean, you must have a rule though, no swearing by Allah or something.
Yeah, no.
Saying wallahi.
When we play together, we, number one, no lying, and no swearing by Allah on anything, in on nothing, not on a game. It's not worth it. We don't have that happen. Are you going to watch any of our Among Us streams? And
but you have to lie on Among Us, don't you?
No, you don't have to lie.
Really? I haven't actually played it. I just heard that it's a game version of a game that everyone plays, like at parties or retreats or whatever.
Called like Who Done It?
Who Done It, or something like that. Assassin or Mafia.
The goal is, if you are the imposter, not to get caught. That does not mean you have to lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can be deceptive. You can be, there's all different ways.
الحرب خدعة.
You have to think of a very smart way. You actually have to use I tell
War
them
is deception.
There's more skill in winning at Among Us without lying than there is lying. Because you actually have to really think of a way to be deceptive. One of our moderators, Meadow, is so good at it. Every time he's imposter, he fools all of us. He never lies. He doesn't lie.
Yeah.
He just says things that are facts, but might be a bit misleading in that sense.
Yeah.
And if you're caught, guess what? You got caught. It's a game.
Yeah.
We get to play again.
I tried playing Among Us, but I don't have enough friends to.
You need about 8, 9.
You need 8, 9 people, to play. If anyone's watching, you wanna play, then let me know. I don't know how exactly I can do. I think I've downloaded the iPhone app.
And it's not a game that I absolutely like. I love. I never play that game when I'm not on stream.
Yeah.
Because I find it a bit tedious, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a tedious game for me.
Make you do work,
but
basically.
It's a very popular game, and it always brings a good crowd, and we're always having fun and laughing on it. So it's more the community sense of it that I like to play the game, because there's a lot of communication that has to happen, rather than I like playing it just because I like playing it. I don't play it if I'm
What other criticisms do you get, and that's common?
Like that, and we play a lot of first-person shooter games, and we get told, that killing is haram.
Violence.
So even killing a digitized rendering.
What do you think about the argument, though, of, school shooters and that kind of stuff, this over-militarized kind of culture?
That can happen, but at the same time, that is also a product of upbringing, a product of mental health, a product of parenting, because we grew up not playing video games, but we grew up actually doing these things. G.I. Joe was like the thing when I was a kid, and we used to have G.I. Joe figures, and we'd be on the backyard shooting and killing one another, dressing up as in fatigue. Like, we actually got involved in real world in the woods scenarios with paintball guns and BB guns and all of that. Like, we actually got out there and did it. It didn't turn us into crazed maniacs.
Most of us
that comes from other products in the environment that push people towards because if video games were the source, I'm not saying it's not, I'm not making this defense, but I'm saying if it was the source of things like this, we would see this happening on a much grander scale, because how many people out there playing video games, and how many people we have out doing these kind of, school shootings and mall shootings and stuff like that. It's a very, very small percentage. And you will always find that these people have some underlying triggers as well. It wasn't, this was a fine young kid until he jumped on Call of Duty. Then next thing you know, he was in the darkness and out shooting up schools. That's not how that progression ever really goes.
And talking about how many, millions of people doing it, I heard that online gaming is actually bigger than all sport and kind of spectator sports combined now. In terms 100%. Of revenue generation,
there
number
are more
of people
professional gamers. And what I mean by professional gamers, I mean they get paid to do this. You know what I mean? They get paid a living wage to game. Is way more than all sports teams combined, in major sports teams. When you talk about NFL, Major League Hockey, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, football. I mean,
yes. We're a team. I'll give you a go in a second. Assalamualaikum. If you like what you hear so far, just let us know in the comments what you think. If you like this podcast, give a like and a share. Don't forget to subscribe and click the donate button as well. I believe in you can do it. Wait, on the topic of kind of the time wasting, you have to also look at the person. If it's someone who's like, they're here in terms of their productivity and they're always, very... then they just relax 5 minutes a day, and they always doing something productive, and their iman and their career, whatever, and then you bring them on board, and the net kind of change in them is going to make them less productive. But if your intention is you're taking someone from here in terms of their productivity, in terms of they're already on these platforms, and you want to get them to a point where you can give them that tarbiyah to actually spend less and less time on it eventually, and encourage them to give them kind of broader life lessons and tarbiyah, then there's an argument that not just one of the major kind of scholars in the UK, he said, don't quote me on this in public, but because of the backlash, obviously, but he said sometimes it could be that it's wajib on you to buy your son a PS4, because of where he is, yeah, and he's going out on the streets or he's going here and there, but you're able to bring him in and you're bringing him closer to a better standard and take him away from a bigger mafsada, a bigger harm, a bigger kind of potential crisis, right, in his life and in his
100%. And I'm not going to say this to self-promote. I don't want to see this self-promoting, because if there was something else like what we're doing, I would put that in. But if I had, let's say someone came to me, you know, a good friend of mine, my 14, 15-year-old son is starting to get into trouble. He's starting to, you know, hang out with the wrong crowd of friends and this and that. What should I do? I tell him, you know, spend $300-400. It will be the best $300-400 you've spent on that child in the next 5 years. Buy him a PS5, buy him a PC, whatever, plug him in, tell him to join us in Muslim Gamers League and focus on some gaming in the afternoon after school with us. That will be, to me, that would be an improvement because of where he was heading. Now he's online with Muslims doing video games, which if any, what kid wouldn't want to be coming told by their parent, your punishment is when you come home from school, you log on to your PC and you play some Call of Duty. You know what I mean? We're like, what? But you know, that could be a good path for some people. And like myself, I was gaming anyway in lockdown. I had run out of other things that I was like, I need something to just plug my mind out for a minute before I completely short circuit up here. Spend 2-3 hours gaming with some brothers and we log off. It's like, what did we accomplish? You know, I kind of wasted time, but I would have wasted it sleep on the couch otherwise. Now, if we're doing this streaming with a bunch of other brothers and we're trying to bring non-Muslims and etc., now we've spent 3-4 hours doing something when I leave, like, hey, you know, we brought some people on the stream. We had some non-Muslims come by. Some brothers hung out together for some, you know, social bonding or whatever. So I feel like we've actually accomplished something.
Yeah, especially in lockdown because you can't go and visit each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like right now, where else are you going?
Yeah.
Everything else is locked down.
I think it's like -7 where you are as well. -7 degrees.
Yeah, that's actually kind of warm.
Yeah. Wow.
Or January, that's kind of warm. It's usually this morning it was like -18.
Wow.
So, and it gets to -20, 30. That happens very easily.
That's crazy.
So especially in Minnesota, like, where am I going? You know what I mean? I need to put on 50 layers, you know, all kinds of stuff and go outside and trek through a whole bunch of snow, which I do like do. I'm an outdoorsman. I like going out in the woods by myself.
Swimming in snow.
But you're not gonna do that every day. You're not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go, you know, 10 hours hiking through the woods, which I do in the summertime. In the winter, you won't survive it.
Nice. I think the key word is improvement. You have to look at where someone is or where you are as yourself and where you could be and where you want to be. I suppose that the danger is getting someone who is more productive and doesn't waste much time and getting them to increase the amount of time they play and stuff. So you have to kind of think about not taking someone the other way, so to speak.
Sure.
But
and
if there is...
some people just want to do it in their downtime.
Yeah.
Every human being needs downtime and needs a hobby.
Yeah.
If you don't have some downtime and a hobby away from, you know, the 9 to 5 of life, you will burn yourself out into a crisp. You have to. The brain and the body needs a period of kind of rest and relaxation. That's why entertainment is such a big niche industry, because people need downtime and they want to be entertained. They don't want their 2 hours of downtime to be sitting cross-legged facing the wall and meditating. It's not the way things are anymore. So they need something to occupy their time.
And it's not that they have to feel guilty either, because you can hack this so that you're actually might be controversial to some people, that you're actually engaging in ibadah, because you're innamal a'malu bin niyat, right? So your actions are by intention. If your intention is, I need to wind down a bit, and you have that in your mind.
Say that one, because for me, I'll get thrown off the bus.
For you, people will say
off the hedge, down the street, and
out of the galaxy.
Yeah, I try to keep my opinions on, especially on controversial matters, silent.
I'll go out and say it. I mean, if everyone has to rest, right? But if your intention is, you know, I want to rest in order to, you know, recharge my battery so I can do something productive later on, engage in ibadah with a clear mind, right? You could be earning reward during that game you're playing, even obviously, unless it's something haram, whatever that goes without saying. But as long as you have a view to eventually maybe, and Allah will give you tawfiq for this, that it might take you 2 hours to unwind at the beginning, but you have a view on the future that I want to be engaged and hone this skill so I can get the same recharge kind of potential in a smaller and smaller time. So that by the end of your kind of, or a few years down the line, months down the line in your journey, in your tarbiyah, you can quickly play a game, few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you'll get that same recharge because you had that plan right from the beginning, and you could be, inshallah, rewarded because you had that long-term vision, you had that plan in mind that I want to hone my skills. Because this was quite uncontroversial, when scholars were saying this about just chilling out and watching a football game or whatever, right, or a cricket game. But I remember one discussing with some brothers, you start off watching a one-day international cricket game, which is like a whole day's kind of, that's proper wasting time, right? But if your intention is, I want to hone my ability to relax and recharge my batteries such that I don't have to spend a day next time. I can just recharge my batteries and kind of do something productive after just an hour of relaxation or rest time or entertainment even.
And as well as because the gaming industry is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's only going to grow in popularity. Gaming professionally is a legitimate profession these days. People are making living wages off of playing video games online. And more than living wages, of course, the famous streamers or that's just like in any other industry. They're only going to be far and few in between, but there are plenty of people farther down in the tier who are making living wages, especially, people who are younger and don't have the tremendous amount of expenses that, us older adults have. They're surviving off playing video games offline, off of Twitch, off of YouTube, off of memberships, off of, all of these sponsorships, etc. So if your kid is really good at video games, it's a legitimate profession these days. And that's something I will say. It is a legitimate profession in this day and age.
Yeah. How do you think this is going to actually change the way, not just games now, I'm talking about, because this is just an example of cyberspace, which has completely taken over a larger and larger section of our time, right? Cyberspace, that place, that metaphorical place where your consciousness is when you're online. We find ourselves increasingly spending more and more time there. And gaming is just one example. How do you think this is actually changing how we view and talk about and learn about Islam?
I honestly believe, at least for the interim, that the way of the large Islamic conferences, big masjid gatherings, circles of knowledge, all of that is a dead issue at the moment. And I don't see that coming back in a really big, meaningful way, the way it used to be, anytime really soon. I just don't see it, especially within the Muslim community, because we go above and beyond, trying to show that we're trying to do the right thing. So we'll be the last people to lift any restrictions off of our communities, the most of us. So the online world is the place where people are living now. It's becoming, I'm trying not to get too dystopian here, to where pretty soon it's going to be like they just plug us into a mainframe and that's it. We live the rest of our life as a vegetable. We live our entire reality is online.
Like Ready Player One. Have you seen that? Huh? Ready Player One.
Yes, it's possible because we would not know the difference. That's the craziest part about it, is we've been so trained to live kind of in a virtual world that we might not really notice the difference. I don't want to go down the whole Matrix road, but he didn't really even notice he was in the Matrix until there was a glitch, and until there was something that he realized, like, wait a minute, hold on a second, something didn't seem right. But for people who maybe 5 generations from now were born like that, they'd never know. They'd never know the difference between the real world and the virtual
even today,
world.
Like digital natives.
Yeah,
kids
we don't. Our kids, my kids, if you took away all their gadgets, they would not know how to live as human beings. They wouldn't know how to get anything done. Yeah. Nothing. They don't know how to do anything the old-fashioned way. And all of it, we'll Google it, we'll look it up. There's an app for this, there's that. It's everything is online. So the path of spreading Islam has to become more digital. and it needs the day, there is a place, and I still do them. There's a place for the old school bayan, emotional, heartfelt talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That always has to be there because there's so many of us that feel like we're drained and we need a faith boost. That type of stuff is there. But if that is the only thing they were offering as a community for the Muslims in a digital world, we're not going to get everybody. We're not reaching the audience that we could reach. We're targeting an audience that we know we already have. Wait a minute. That's a disservice. If you're targeting the audience you already know you have and not trying to broaden that audience, are you really serving a higher purpose there? It's kind of becoming like the brick and mortar masajid become virtual to where we only cater to our community. We're only cater to the audience within our walls. We don't care nothing about what goes on in the real world. No, the da'wah has to remain with that mindset that we care about the broader world, not just the one that we have as a captive audience, if that makes sense.
We always say that the da'wah has to be dynamic.
It has to be dynamic. Yeah. It cannot be one level. That's it. If all you're bringing is bayans and talks and khutbahs, that's fine. You'll get that audience, but you're not reaching the level that you could reach. And this is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would always be ready to accept advice on how to reach a broader audience. We see this from the hadith of the minbar. The hadith of the minbar, when the women came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, we cannot hear you from the back. Can I hear you from the back? So how about you make some stairs so you stand on them so your voice will reach farther so that we can hear you here in the back. And he accepted that advice from a woman. The minbar became part of the sunnah. So being able to, that understanding of, okay, I can reach more people if we build these steps. I can reach the full audience that is in front of me. This is the mind frame that I try to go in when I look at the da'wah. How can I reach a broader audience, but also try to keep things in the boundaries of permissibility to the best of our abilities, but reach a bigger audience than I ever could reach?
Yeah,
I'm always thinking about that. I'm always trying to innovate a new idea or even something that's working already, but is not being targeted towards the Muslim community that I know is already in that world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How we go in there and target them, if that makes sense. I even had one person say, that's haram because it's like saying you're going to go into a pub and give da'wah. Like this, you cannot compare that physical world to this.
Have some orange juice.
This is apples and oranges here. I'm not walking into a pub. Yes, there's there's pubs you can walk into online, but it's like going into the mall and not choosing not to go into the pub, but everybody is here. It's hard, but that you have to deal with that. If you're ever going to do anything that is new and kind of innovative and kind of edgy, you just have to be ready for this. You have to. And I feel this, don't get into stuff like that if you're not ready for the backlash. If you're not ready for people to take shots at you, be rude, say silly things, then don't rock the boat. Just stay in the boat. Keep going where it was going. Don't try to rock it. Don't try to change course.
Okay, guys, ready to subscribe? This is it. 3, 2, 1. Hit that subscribe notification. Boom. Don't miss. Oh, try again. The da'wah needs many different things to reach different types of people. I think the issue is we need to be kind of cognizant of what's the unintended consequences to the da'wah, to how we understand and talk about Islam and practice Islam. This whole thing about, what's it called, Faustian bargain or something? The in mythology, like the deal with the devil. You think you have this, but there's always an underlying kind of there's strings attached. There's a consequence. So, for example, with a lot of online da'wah, it's kind of dominated now by algorithms. I think we had a themed week a few months ago in Soundcloud, and we wrote one article I wrote about how artificial intelligence is creating a new madhab, right? Because of the things, the types of discourse that generally rise to the top, things that are controversial, things that are quick, simplistic, things that are polarizing. Discourse, Islamic discourse that is polarizing, for example, that tends to thrive more in an online environment than things that are more individualized, kind of tarbawi based, things that are conciliatory, things that are unifying the Muslims, things that are, maybe a bit nuanced rather than kind of black and white. And eventually there is this kind of unintended consequence now that people are just brushing aside, you know, scholars who've spent who've worked very hard in building bridges and trying to unify the Muslims, but somebody who is very, you know, slick on their social media or YouTube or whatever, they're able to come and replace those classes by just giving a very simplistic kind of anger-inducing, dopamine kind of generating, hijacking message. And that's having some impact on how we learn about and discuss and talk about Islam, I think. And I don't have an answer to that. It's like we're in a huge experiment here, just to see what impact it does have. And it's everyone has to kind of monitor their own progress and their own discourse. If I think, for example, wait a minute, in the last, you know, month, what type of topics have I been able to speak about in the Dawah kind of in cyberspace? If I'm finding myself maybe focusing on certain things because that's the stuff people engage with, then I could be going down a dangerous path here, because I'm kind of unintentionally deleting certain parts of Islam from our discourse. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're all doing that, you know, there needs to be some kind of oversight, some kind of cooperation, some kind of mutual kind of shura of Muslims in the online space to make sure, okay, everyone do the things that they're doing, but let's look at where the gaps, you know, maybe, or let's look at where our discourse is heading. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. The problem, I'm trying to word this in the right way. We've turned hype and popularity into scholarship.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem. And this is why I try to make the distinction very clear in my space, that knowledge and scholarship are not found here. If that's what you've come to my content for, please keep moving. There are knowledge and scholarship out there, and I try to direct people to that, but that's not me. The best I can say is I'm a motivational speaker. That's it. Motivation. That does not equate knowledge. That does not equate scholarship. That equates being gifted with words to put them together in a way that makes something make sense to a large portion of people. And we used to do this. I'm from the South, and so I equate things with kind of like my upbringing. And I grew up in the church community in the South, as well as the car building community. My mom's brothers were all rednecks who built drag cars and raced them on the weekend and like nearly killed themselves half the time. But you know, we would go to a church, and we used to when I went with my mother, we went to a few kind of local, very rural churches, and there was 2 or 3 pastors who used to come, and we used to know them by octane of gas, who they're going to be. You know, like when the preacher that came that was super motivational, screaming and yelling, sweating by the end of it, he was high octane. Oh, the high octane preacher.
99%.
You know, and that's high octane right there. You know, 99% are what we call like 90, 93 or ethanol. Like, cause he's firing on all cylinders, cause high octane burns a lot faster. Like, scholars can build the car. This is their knowledge to design the structure of our religion. And this is only done by scholars. It takes a high level of qualification to put together a motor in a car system that can perform on a race level. It takes a lot of knowledge. The motivational speaker is the gas. They're the octane. You put the high octane in, those highly motivational speakers make you want to take that car and just and take off and take your deen and take it to another level. Then you have some speakers that, you know, they're regular octane. You know what I mean? They're good to listen to, mashallah. They don't push it as far. So we have to equate the difference between the two. The car has to be built by scholars. Without that car, that high octane gas is worth absolutely nothing. It's not going to do any good. You build the high octane, you build the powerful car by the knowledge of the scholars. I'm talking about real scholars who dedicated their lives to learning this religion, people who can reach that level of giving us opinions and rulings and can do ijtihad and things of that nature. Everybody else is just gasoline for that car. We're turning to the gasoline before we even have the car built. And that's very unfortunate this day and age. And that's something I'm glad that I got pushed on to kind of following scholarship before motivation. That's also because when I accepted Islam, there was no YouTube, there was no TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, none of that even existed. So it was a different world, but we do need to make that distinction in today's day and age.
So I think that's the best metaphor I've heard all day. The gasoline and the vehicle, the car.
That's it.
That's amazing.
You build the vehicle, and the more better scholarship you go to, the better that vehicle is going to be, the more high performance it's going to be. And fill it with whatever gas you want to. You'll get whatever gas you fill in it, high octane, low octane, you'll get that performance out of it as well. That's where the motivational speakers play their role. They do play their role because they get us motivated to do those things that we pretty much already knew. We just needed to hear them in a way that seeded in our hearts and pushed us to want to do something.
Excellent. Yeah, couldn't agree more. In particular, talking about young people now and kids. A lot of kids now. I don't know about in the USA, but in the UK, for example, the schools are mostly shut because of rising cases in the second wave of the pandemic and so forth. And a lot of parents might they feel maybe guilty that the kids are playing games, or they might feel that they want to or the kids might be playing too many games, too much time online, that kind of stuff. And some parents might feel that they have to fill their kids' day with with some kind of activities. And just an article comes to mind that Noor Chaudhry wrote. It's going to be coming out on Soundcloud soon, inshallah, just about the benefits of boredom for kids, that we have to allow kids to have some downtime and not just spend all the time kind of being bombarded with through their kind of senses, because boredom is actually very important for their mental health, for their creativity, for their self-esteem, for their imagination building. And it's important just to kind of caveat all that we've said about, gaming and relaxing and that kind of stuff, but to also encourage young people in particular, and just generally everyone, to have some downtime where we don't have headphones on, we're not listening to something, we're not watching something, we're just actually maybe still, maybe, pondering over nature or whatever, or going for a walk, where we're not being kind of bombarded with some kind of sensory stimuli.
I tell my kids, this is where you're getting into the old dad phase. I tell my kids, what I used to have to play with was my bike and my imagination. When I was a kid, that was it. I went outside. I came home from school. I usually had a snack and watched some of the after school cartoons. And then that's it. I was out of the house. I was on my bike. I was out in the woods or playing with my friends. And what I had was my imagination. We had to find ways to entertain ourselves. Those are people who grew up in life and learn how to problem solve, because you learn how to use your imagination to overcome, or your brain to overcome boredom or whatever it is that you were trying to do in real world scenarios. Absolutely. Now our kids are being, they bombarded with a problem. And the first thing they do is they get frustrated. They get frustrated. There's no immediate instant gratification result that they didn't have to really put any work in for. And it's a huge problem. My kids tell me a lot of time when they're not allowed to game and stuff like, oh, I'm bored. I'm like, well, if you're bored, the best solution is to figure out how to undo that boredom. That's it. That's your goal right now. That is your occupation. Try to figure out how to make yourself unbored without my help or without technology's help. A lot more of our kids could use that. Yeah,
it's very, very empowering as well, and beneficial for their development and imagination stuff. Jazakallah khair. I mean, I could go on for hours, but I'm aware of the time. I'm very grateful you joined us.
My pleasure.
I might come and check out the MGL. I noticed that you were reluctant to face me in Street Fighter 5 because maybe
I haven't played Street Fighter in so
here come
long.
the excuses. I'm a pretty big deal on Street Fighter. I'm quite humble about it normally. But,
We'll have to check it out one day, inshallah.
But, maybe soon, inshallah, after this pandemic is over, we can meet up and play in real life. Not inshallah, punching each other, but playing on the PS4 or whatever.
Always my pleasure, and give everyone my salams.
Jazakallah khair.
My salams.
We'll do, inshallah. Yeah. Barakallah feek.
Anytime you ever need me, I'm right here, akhi.
Yep. Okay, I'll take you up on that, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Take care, akhi. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
And Jazakumullah khairan for you joining us at home. If you like this podcast, give it a like and a share. Please don't forget to subscribe and let's try and get 250 subscribers from this episode. Let's also try and remember to donate to Islam Truancy, £5 a month. Let's try and get 500 people clicking on the URL in the description below. It's only 16 odd p a day. You can do it. And that's it from me and the rest of the Islam Truancy team. Jazakumullah khairan. I'm off to do something productive. Until next time, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Unscripted.